Life on Earth is a story of chance and necessity. Evolution follows winding paths. Many forms appear and then vanish. Sometimes a group that seems minor can rise. This is the story of the Arachnids. They were once simple spiders. They lived in the shadows of other, larger creatures. No one could predict their future, but small changes over vast timescales led to a new kind of dominion. This alternate Earth saw the quiet, patient ascent of the Arachnid. The ancestors of the Arachnids were not remarkable at first. They belonged to a lineage of hunting spiders. These spiders lived perhaps in the Cenozoic era. Dinosaurs were gone, mammals were starting to diversify. The world offered new opportunities, new empty spaces in nature. These early Arachnian ancestors were small. They relied on venom and stealth. They built simple webs or hunted on the ground. Their survival depended on catching insects and avoiding larger predators. They were just one thread in the rich tapestry of life. Then a series of small but significant mutations began. One mutation might have made their silk slightly stronger. Another might have improved their venom's effectiveness. Perhaps a slight increase in body size offered an advantage. These were not sudden, dramatic leaps. Each change was tested by natural selection. If a trait helped a spider survive and reproduce, it spread. These early advantages were crucial. They allowed these spiders to exploit new food sources. They could also better defend themselves. This was the quiet beginning of their divergence. These accumulated changes set this group of spiders on a unique path. They were not becoming better in some absolute sense. They were becoming better adapted to a particular way of life. This way of life slowly shifted as their abilities grew. Over millions of years, these spiders became distinct. They were the first true Arachnids. Their journey shows how evolution can take unexpected turns. A lineage can move from a modest beginning to shaping an entire planet. The web of life is always being rewoven, thread by new thread. The journey to dominance required significant changes in Arachnian bodies. One of the first major shifts was an increase in size. Early spiders were small, limited by their exoskeletons. They were also limited by their breathing systems. Arachnids evolved more efficient book lungs. Perhaps they even developed a rudimentary tracheal system. This allowed for better oxygen intake. Their exoskeletons became more robust but also more flexible at the joints. This supported larger bodies without sacrificing agility. This size increase opened up new hunting possibilities. Their limbs also underwent remarkable transformations. Spiders have 8 legs, and Arachnids kept this number. However, the front 2 pairs of legs became more specialized. They were not just for walking, they developed into sensitive, manipulative appendages. They could grasp objects, build complex structures, and interact with their environment. Their pedipalps, already used for sensing and manipulation, grew larger. They became almost like small arms. Their chelicerae, or jaws, also became stronger. They could tackle larger prey and process different types of food. Sensory perception was vital for the Arachnids. Most spiders have 8 simple eyes. In Arachnids, these eyes evolved greater complexity. Some pairs specialized for keen distance vision, others focused on detecting subtle movements nearby. Their ability to sense vibrations, already acute in spiders, reached new heights. They could feel the tiniest tremors through the ground or their webs. Chemical senses also became highly developed. They could taste and smell their world with incredible precision. This rich sensory input was crucial for their growing intelligence. Internally, Arachnian physiology adapted to their new scale and abilities. Their circulatory system became more efficient. It pumped hemolymph more effectively to their larger muscles and brains. Glands evolved to produce a wider variety of silks. Some silks were incredibly strong for construction, others were fine for communication networks. Their venom also evolved. It was not just for subduing prey. Some venoms had specialized uses, perhaps in defense or even in medicine. These physical changes were the foundation for their complex future. The brains of early spiders were simple clusters of nerve cells. These ganglia controlled basic functions like movement and sensory input. For Arachnids to rise, their minds had to grow. The initial neural structures were small. They were sufficient for a solitary hunter's life, but new challenges and opportunities drove change. A more complex world required more complex thought. This was a slow, incremental process. Small advantages in processing information were favored by selection. Several pressures likely spurred Arachnian neural development. Hunting larger, more cunning prey required better strategies. Navigating complex, three-dimensional environments favored spatial memory. The beginnings of social interaction, even if rudimentary, demanded new cognitive skills. Arachnians that could learn from experience had an edge. Those that could anticipate dangers or opportunities survived better. Natural selection acted on these variations in brain function. It slowly sculpted a more capable mind. The need to process diverse sensory data also pushed neural growth. The main center of the Arachnian brain is the supraesophageal ganglion. This structure began to expand significantly. New layers of neurons formed. Connections between different brain regions became more intricate. This allowed for faster and more sophisticated information processing. Specialized areas for memory, learning, and decision-making emerged. This was not like the vertebrate brain. It was a uniquely arthropod path to higher intelligence. Their brains were designed to manage 8 limbs and multiple sensory inputs. They thought in a way fundamentally different from mammals. With this neural expansion came new abilities. Arachnians started to show clear signs of complex problem solving. They could use objects in their environment as tools. For example, they might use a sharp stone to cut tough prey, or they might use silk in increasingly inventive ways. Their memory improved dramatically. They could remember past events and plan for the future. Learning became a key part of their lives. Young Arachnians learned from older, more experienced individuals. This was the dawn of Arachnian intellect. Section 4. Silk Dialogues, Arachnian Communication and Early Society. Communication is essential for any complex society. Primitive spiders use simple signals. They use chemicals called pheromones to attract mates. They use vibrations on their webs to detect prey or rivals. These methods were too limited for the developing Arachnians. As their intelligence grew, so did their need to share information. They needed ways to communicate complex ideas. This was vital for cooperation and social cohesion. Their unique biology offered a perfect medium silk. The Arachnians began to use their versatile silk for communication. They could produce many different types of silk. Each type could have different properties. Some silks might carry specific chemical scents. Others could be spun into intricate patterns. These patterns, when plucked or vibrated, could transmit messages. Think of it like a natural telegraph system. Lines of silk could stretch between individuals or across a communal web. Vibrations could travel along these lines. The Arachnians learned to create and interpret complex sequences of these vibrations. These improved communication methods allowed for the formation of early social groups. Solitary life has its limits. Cooperation can bring great benefits. Early Arachnian groups might have been small family units. They might have hunted together, sharing larger prey. They could also defend themselves more effectively against predators. Within these groups, basic social structures began to emerge. Dominance hierarchies might have formed. Individuals started to have specialized roles. The ability to communicate complex intentions was key to this organization. Over time, their silk-based language became more sophisticated. They developed a rich vocabulary of vibrations, tensions, and patterns. They could even coat silk strands with specific pheromones. This added another layer of meaning. Information could be shared quickly and accurately across surprising distances. News of food sources, dangers, or environmental changes could spread through a colony. This ability to communicate effectively was a cornerstone of their emerging society. It allowed them to coordinate actions and build a shared understanding of their world. Section 5. Woven Worlds, Arachnian Cities, Technology and Ethics. As Arachnian societies grew, they needed larger, more permanent homes. Small colonies evolved into sprawling settlements. These were the first Arachnian cities. They often chose locations that offered shelter and resources. Large caves, dense forests, or even canyons became sites for their unique architecture. Their primary building material was, of course, silk. They produced incredibly strong and durable silks. These were used to construct vast, multi-layered web structures. These structures provided shelter, pathways, and communication networks for thousands of individuals. The Arachnians also began to develop technology. This was not technology in the human sense of metal and fire, at least not initially. Their technology was based on their biology and their environment. They learned to use stones for grinding or as anchors for their webs. They manipulated plant fibers, weaving them with silk for added strength. Their sharp chelicerae and agile pedipalps were excellent tools. They shaped wood and other materials. Their understanding of material science, especially fibers, was profound. They were master weavers and engineers of the natural world. Living in such dense communities required rules and cooperation. Thus, a system of Iranian ethics began to form. These were practical rules for living together. They concerned resource allocation and conflict resolution. How should food be shared? How should disputes over space be settled? These questions needed answers for society to function. Perhaps their ethics were based on concepts of interconnectedness. After all, their lives were literally woven together by silk. Harm to one part of the web could affect everyone. Iranian psychology was shaped by their unique sensory world. Touch and vibration were paramount. Their perception of reality was deeply tactile. Their social bonds were reinforced through shared web vibrations and grooming. Fear might be triggered by unusual tremors or the scent of a predator. Curiosity drove them to explore and understand their environment. Their minds, while alien to us, developed complex emotions and motivations. These were necessary for navigating their intricate social webs and their expanding world. Section 6. The Global Tapestry, Iranian Civilization and Thought. The Iranians did not remain confined to one region. Over many generations, they spread across the globe. Their adaptability allowed them to colonize diverse environments. They moved from forests to deserts, from mountains to coastlines. This expansion led to a form of globalization. Different Iranian populations encountered each other. They exchanged knowledge, resources, and perhaps even genetic material. Silk pathways, both physical and informational, began to connect distant parts of their world. This created a global tapestry of Iranian civilization. With settled societies and reliable resources, Iranians developed science. Their science was rooted in careful observation of the world. They studied biology, understanding the plants and animals around them. They became experts in materials, especially the properties of their own silk. Physics, for them, might have focused on vibrations, stresses, and structural engineering. They mapped the stars not through lenses at first, but perhaps by sensing subtle environmental cues. Their scientific method was based on experimentation and the sharing of knowledge through their silk networks. Philosophy also blossomed within Iranian civilization. They pondered fundamental questions about their existence. What was their place in the natural order? Did they have a purpose? Their philosophies might have centered on concepts of interconnectedness, cycles and patterns. The great weaver could be a central idea. This could be a metaphor for the forces of nature or a literal creator deity. Ethical philosophy would explore fairness, responsibility, and the nature of consciousness. Their thinkers would debate these ideas, their arguments vibrating across the web. Art and aesthetics were integral to Iranian culture. They found beauty in order and complexity. Their cities were not just functional, they were works of art. Intricate patterns were woven into their silk structures. They might have used natural pigments from plants or minerals to color their silks. Perhaps they created music through controlled vibrations on their webs. Their art reflected their unique way of perceiving the world. It celebrated the strength and versatility of silk. It also expressed their understanding of the patterns that governed life. Section 7. Beyond the Orb. Iranian Ambitions and the Cosmos. As Iranian civilization matured, they gained a deeper understanding of their world. They knew their planet was a sphere. They observed the movements of the moon and stars. This knowledge naturally led to curiosity about what lay beyond. Early Iranian astronomy mapped the celestial bodies. They developed theories about the cosmos. Like any intelligent species, they began to wonder if they were alone. The vastness of space became a new frontier for their ever-active minds. The drive to explore is a powerful one. For Iranians, space exploration might have been motivated by several factors. The search for new resources could be one. The desire for knowledge to understand the universe would be another. Perhaps there was a philosophical imperative. Maybe they felt a need to spread life or their way of life to other worlds. The challenges were immense, but their history was one of overcoming obstacles through ingenuity and cooperation. The stars beckoned, offering new mysteries to unravel. Iranian space travel would require unique technological solutions. How would an air-breathing arthropod survive in the vacuum of space? Their spacecraft would need robust life support systems. These systems must manage their specific respiratory and metabolic needs. Propulsion might involve novel concepts, perhaps based on strong tensional forces or solar sails woven from super-strong silk. Communicating across cosmic distances would be a challenge. Perhaps they could use focused gravitational waves or some other medium we have not yet imagined. The rise of the Arachnids offers a fascinating thought experiment. It shows how evolution can produce diverse forms of intelligence. A world dominated by arachnids would be vastly different from our own. Their technologies, philosophies, and societies would reflect their unique biology. Studying such an alternative evolutionary path can teach us about the nature of life itself. It highlights the contingency of our own existence. The Arachnids, weavers of their own destiny, might one day cast their silk threads between the stars. Their journey is a testament to the endless possibilities of evolution. Arachnian governance is not like human governance. They call their system the Silk Assemblies. It is a unique form of societal organization. Decisions emerge from many voices, carefully intertwined. They weave consensus together, strand by strand. No single leader rules over the others. Their society is a vast interconnected web. Every individual thread contributes to the whole. Social harmony is a highly prized ideal among them. They value the collective well-being deeply. Individualism, as humans understand it, is perceived quite differently. The fundamental nature of the Silk Assemblies differs greatly from hierarchical systems. There are no kings, there are no presidents. Councils of elders in the human sense do not exist. Power is diffuse within their communities. It resides within the process of weaving agreement. It is not held by specific individuals. The assemblies represent a continuous, ongoing dialogue. They are a living, breathing structure of interaction. The health and integrity of the societal web are paramount. This requires constant mindful attention from all members of the community. The Silk Assemblies are not always a physical place. They are more a state of being, a particular method. They can convene wherever it is suitable for web spinning. The term itself refers to the overarching framework of their political life. It is the means by which social order is maintained. It is how disputes are carefully resolved. It's how collective action is decided upon. The stability and continuity of Arachnian society depend entirely on this intricate framework. Without it, their complex social structures would unravel. This unique system of governance evolved over very long ages. It reflects their innate biology as weavers. It also reflects the specific environment they inhabit. They are natural artisans of silk. Their minds tend to think in patterns and connections. Governance for the Arachnians is an extension of this innate skill. It is considered a complex art form in its own right. Understanding its nuances requires considerable patience. It's not a system that can be learned quickly by outsiders. It demands a shift in perspective. At the heart of each significant Arachnian community lies a nest core. The nest core is not a ruling body in any conventional sense. It functions primarily as a central point of information. It serves as a repository of shared knowledge and history. Experienced individuals often gather within its silken walls. These individuals are archivists of past consensus. They work to maintain the integrity of the local societal web. Their role is fundamentally advisory, not directorial or coercive. They guide, but they do not command. Nest cores are frequently ancient structures, patiently constructed. They are woven from special kinds of silk. These silks are chosen for their durability and resonance. They endure for many generations. New layers of silk are added carefully over time. The history of the community is thus literally part of its central structure. To enter a nest core is to enter the living past. It is widely regarded as a place of quiet contemplation. Many important discussions often begin here, unfolding informally among its members. Around the central nest core, numerous spindle circles form. These are more fluid and adaptable groups. They emerge based on specific issues or emerging needs within the community. Any Arachnian can initiate a spindle circle. Any Arachnian can join one if they feel they have something to contribute. These circles are the true engines of discussion and deliberation. They explore problems from a multitude of angles. Each circle typically focuses on a particular thread of a larger, more complex issue. Their carefully considered findings are then shared with the wider community. Spindle circles are temporary by nature, but they are vital to Arachnian governance. A circle can be quite small, consisting of just a few individuals. It can also grow to be very large, encompassing many participants. The size of a spindle circle depends entirely on the nature and scope of the issue at hand. When their specific task is completed, they dissolve back into the community. Their conclusions and insights are offered to the wider populace. This offering is a key part of the consensus weaving process. They represent the dynamic, responsive aspect of Arachnian governance. Consensus weaving is the Arachnian method for making collective decisions. It is not a system of voting. It is not debate in the adversarial sense often seen in human societies. Instead, it is a slow, meticulous, and careful process. The ultimate goal is to find a solution that all members of the community can accept. This requires a great deal of patience from everyone involved. It also demands deep and respectful listening. Every individual voice is considered a valuable thread in the larger pattern. No thread is deemed unimportant. The process of consensus weaving typically begins within the spindle circles. Ideas are proposed and then thoroughly examined from many viewpoints. Different perspectives are shared openly and honestly. Individuals are expected to adjust their initial viewpoints as new information emerges. They actively seek common ground. This is much like weavers, carefully choosing their threads. They look for strands that offer both strength and harmony. Disagreements are not viewed as conflict to be won. They are seen as complexities to be skillfully woven into the final design. When a spindle circle reaches a preliminary understanding or a potential solution, it shares its findings. This sharing is often done through intricately woven silk messages. These messages convey both information and nuance. Sometimes, oral presentations are made to the wider community. Other spindle circles and the community at large then examine these findings. The nest core often helps to disseminate the information broadly and fairly. The aim is always a gradual convergence of views. This process can take a long, sometimes very long time. Time is not the primary concern. Achieving the right, sustainable outcome is paramount. A decision is considered final only when no significant dissent remains within the community. This does not necessarily mean that everyone is equally happy with the outcome. It means that everyone can live with the decision. It signifies that the chosen solution is believed to strengthen the community web. If consensus cannot be reached after extensive effort, the issue may be set aside for a time. Alternatively, new spindle circles may form to explore different approaches. The process inherently values unity and social cohesion above speed or efficiency. Force is never used to compel agreement or silence dissent. Arachnian society, despite its emphasis on harmony, is not without differences in thought. Several distinct ideological leanings exist among them. These are like different recurring patterns seen within the great societal web. The webalists are, in essence, traditionalists. They believe the existing web structure with its established norms is of paramount importance. They tend to emphasize stability and the continuity of traditions. They are often cautious about implementing rapid or untested changes. Their influence is frequently strong in older, more established Arachnian communities. The solithreads represent a more individualistic perspective within the Arachnian context. This term, individualistic, is relative in such a collectivist society. Solithreads value innovation and personal exploration. They believe that the unique talents and insights of individuals ultimately strengthen the entire web. They sometimes challenge established norms and ways of thinking. This group often includes younger Arachnians. It also includes those who live on the fringes of larger, more densely woven nests. Their ideas can be disruptive at times, but they are also seen as a vital source of new energy. The silken unifiers constitute another significant ideological current. They actively seek broader connections between different Arachnian communities. They dream of linking all Arachnian nests into a single, vast web of understanding and cooperation. They promote internest diplomacy and encourage shared projects for mutual benefit. They tend to see differences between nests as temporary conditions. They hold a strong belief that all Arachnians share a common destiny and purpose. This group often provides the impetus for large-scale collaborative initiatives that span multiple communities. These ideological groups are not formal political parties as humans might understand them. They are more like tendencies of thought or philosophical inclinations. An Arachnian might lean towards a Weberlist view on one particular issue. The same individual might adopt a solithread perspective on a different matter. The lines between these leanings are fluid and often indistinct. The process of consensus weaving inherently tries to incorporate all these varied perspectives. It is rare for these ideological differences to cause open schism. The deep-seated commitment to the integrity of the web usually prevents such fractures. However, strong disagreements can significantly slow the decision-making process. Section 5. Gossamer ties and severed threads, Arachnian diplomacy and war. Diplomacy between different Arachnian nests is a delicate and highly refined art. It closely mirrors the process of consensus weaving, but on a larger intercommunity scale, envoys chosen for diplomatic missions are selected for their exceptional patience. They are also chosen for their skill in understanding and interpreting complex patterns of communication. These envoys travel between nests, often over considerable distances. They carry messages meticulously woven in intricate silk. These messages are not just information, they are also works of art, conveying nuance and intent. Misinterpretations of these silken missives can be dangerous. The primary goal of Arachnian diplomacy is to maintain peaceful coexistence and mutual respect. Nests may agree to share resources such as water sources or foraging grounds. They may collaborate on large-scale projects that benefit multiple communities. These projects could include extensive defensive webs against environmental hazards. They might also involve the construction of complex irrigation systems. Alliances are formed through a slow, careful weaving of mutual understanding and trust. Ritual exchanges, such as sharing skilled weavers or knowledge holders, can occur. These exchanges strengthen the ties between nests, weaving them closer together. War is an exceedingly rare occurrence among the Arachnians. It is universally viewed as a catastrophic failure of the web. It signifies that the processes of consensus weaving and diplomacy have broken down completely. When conflict does erupt, it is not like human warfare. The Arachnians do not maintain standing armies or specialized warrior castes. Conflict often involves the strategic destruction or unraveling of an opponent's communal web. This can cripple a community, disrupting its social fabric and its ability to function. Such an act is considered deeply shameful and a tragedy for all involved. Recovery from such internest conflict is a slow and arduous process. It involves the painstaking reweaving not just of physical structures. It requires the reweaving of trust and social bonds. Sometimes a neutral nest core from an uninvolved community will offer to mediate. The focus of this mediation is on restoring harmony and balance. It is not on punishing the defeated or exacting retribution. The memory of such conflicts is preserved in their oral histories. It serves as a powerful deterrent against future aggression. It reinforces the profound value Arachnians place on their peaceful, consensus-based processes. War leaves deep scars that can last for many generations. Section 6. Art from the spinneret forms of Arachnian expression. Arachnian art is deeply and inextricably connected to their unique biology. Their primary medium for artistic expression is naturally silk. Web sculptures are perhaps their most visible and grand art form. These are not merely functional webs designed for shelter or trapping prey. They are extraordinarily intricate structures of stunning complexity and beauty. These sculptures play with light and shadow in subtle ways. They are designed to capture and interact with gentle air currents. They are often communal creations, with many individuals contributing their threads and skills over time. Thread harmonies represent another unique and fascinating Arachnian art form. These creations are somewhat akin to music in human cultures. Arachnians can produce silk threads of varying thickness, tension, and texture. When these carefully prepared threads are plucked or vibrated by the wind, they produce sound. A skilled Arachnian artist, known as a harmony weaver, can weave a web that sings. These harmonies can be incredibly complex, forming rich sonic tapestries. They are often performed or experienced in specific environmental conditions. The wind, in this sense, becomes a collaborator with the artist. Moleskin inscriptions are a more personal and intimate form of Arachnian art. When an Arachnian molts, its old exoskeleton is shed. This is a natural part of their growth cycle. Some Arachnians choose to inscribe these shed moleskins. They use fine, sharp tools, often made of hardened resin or bone. They carve intricate patterns, personal histories, and philosophical reflections onto the moleskin. These are deeply personal records of an individual's growth and transformation. They are also reflections on life's continuous changes. These inscribed moleskins are highly valued and are often kept within family lines for generations. The creation of art among the Arachnians is not seen as an activity separate from daily life. It is thoroughly integrated into the fabric of their existence. A well-woven dwelling is considered a work of art. A carefully crafted tool, perfectly balanced and functional, is also art. The very process of consensus weaving, with its delicate interplay of voices and ideas, is itself viewed as an art form. Beauty and utility are often intertwined in their creations. There is less distinction between what humans might call craft and fine art. All skilled and mindful making is respected and appreciated. Section 7. The ephemeral aesthetic, time and beauty in Arachnian art. Arachnian aesthetics place a high value on impermanence and change. This is a core concept that shapes their understanding of beauty. Consequently, much of their art is temporal art. It is not created with the intention of lasting forever. Webb's sculptures, for example, are exposed to the natural elements. They change with the wind and the rain. They gather dust and dew. They eventually decay and return to the environment. This process of decay is not seen as a loss. It is considered part of their inherent beauty. It reflects the natural cycle of life, growth and dissolution. Thread harmonies are, by their very nature, fleeting and ephemeral. They exist only when the wind blows in a particular way, or they exist only when the harmony weaver performs them. The memory of the harmony, the experience of hearing it, is often as important as the sound itself. This artistic practice teaches an acceptance of change. It encourages an appreciation of the present moment. The beauty is found in the lived experience, not solely in a permanent object. This imbues their art with a sense of preciousness tied to its transient nature. Even moleskin inscriptions, which are more durable than webs or harmonies, are records of a past self. The mold itself is a potent symbol of transformation and growth. The art inscribed upon it acknowledges this inherent transience. The Arachnians understand deeply that all things change. Their art does not attempt to fight against this fundamental truth of existence. Instead, it embraces it. This acceptance gives their artistic expressions a unique poignancy and depth. It is a beauty that acknowledges its own eventual passing. The concept of a finished work of art is also different in Arachnian culture. A web sculpture, for instance, might be added to by other members of the community over time. It can evolve. It is, in a sense, a living piece. Its meaning can shift as new threads are contributed or old ones decay. This collaborative and evolving nature is central to their aesthetic. It mirrors their societal structures, which are also in a state of constant, slow adaptation. Art, for the Arachnians, is often a conversation, not a final, immutable statement. This makes their aesthetic dynamic alive and always in process. Section 8. The unfolding self-molting life and the echo of being. Molting is a profoundly significant event in the life of every Arachnian. It is not merely a biological necessity for growth, it is also a spiritual and philosophical marker. Each molt represents the completion of one stage of growth and development. It is a symbolic shedding of the old self with its accumulated experiences and limitations. It marks an emergence into a new phase of being, offering new potentials. Arachnians often celebrate molts with quiet rituals. These are times for personal reflection and a sense of renewal. The community acknowledges this passage. Arachnian identity is consequently seen as fluid and ever-changing. It is understood to be constantly rewoven through experience and growth. The past self, often preserved and honored in the inscribed moleskin, is respected, but the present self is always considered new, emergent. This philosophical outlook allows for great personal adaptability. It also means that an Arachnian's identity is intimately tied to their ongoing experiences and development. It is not a fixed or static state. An Arachnian is, in many ways, the sum of its molts, its journey through life's transformations. Life, for the Arachnians, is understood as a continuous unfolding process. It is often likened to a single thread being spun from an individual's spinneret. Each moment, each experience adds to the length and pattern of this life thread. The quality of an Arachnian's life is often judged by the beauty and strength of this thread. It is also judged by how well this individual thread integrates into the larger web of the community. Personal narratives, the stories woven into these life threads, are considered important. They contribute to the collective memory and wisdom of the nest. Death is seen as the final molt, the ultimate shedding. The physical body is shed, much like an old exoskeleton, but the Arachnian's life thread, their unique pattern, remains part of the great societal web. Their contributions, their memories, and their influence continue to resonate. This continuation is known as the echo of being. Arachnians believe that an individual's essence, their impact, persists within the community. It continues in the lives of others, in the stories told, and in the patterns they help to weave. This belief offers comfort and a powerful sense of continuity beyond individual mortality. Section 9. Sacred Strands, Arachnian Faith and Rituals. Arachnian religious beliefs are centered on a concept they call the Great Weaver. This is not an anthropomorphic deity in the way humans often conceive of gods. The Great Weaver is understood as the underlying principle of connection and creation. It is the fundamental force that binds the universe together. The Great Weaver is manifest in every web, large or small. It is present in every act of creation, from spinning a simple thread to forming a complex society. It is even seen in the process of consensus weaving itself. Their spirituality is immanent, found within the fabric of the world around them. Rituals in Arachnian society often involve acts of communal weaving. These rituals can mark important seasonal changes, such as the first frost or the return of migratory prey. They are also performed for significant life events like molting, bonding, or death. During these rituals, large symbolic webs are created by many members of the community working together. These webs are often intricate and beautiful, imbued with collective intent. Once completed, these ritual webs are sometimes offered to the wind, or they are allowed to naturally decay, returning their substance to the environment. This symbolizes connection to the Great Weaver and the cycle of creation and dissolution. Chanting and specific thread harmonies often accompany these sacred weavings. There are no priests or formal clergy in Arachnian society in the human sense of these roles. Certain individuals, however, are deeply respected for their spiritual insight and wisdom. They are often highly skilled weavers or gifted storytellers. These individuals may guide rituals. They may help others interpret the subtle signs of the Great Weaver in the world. Such individuals are sometimes called thread keepers. They are responsible for preserving sacred patterns, ancient narratives, and ritual knowledge. Their role is to maintain spiritual continuity and understanding within the community. They serve through wisdom, not authority. Sectarian offshoots and variations in belief do exist, though they are usually not hostile towards one another. These different groups may emphasize particular aspects of the Great Weaver or its manifestations. For example, the Skyweavers focus on celestial patterns. They believe the stars and constellations are distant nests of the Great Weaver, or perhaps threads in an even vaster cosmic web. The Deep-Root Weavers, in contrast, focus on the earth and its energies. They see the Great Weaver in the slow growth of ancient trees, the shaping of stone by water, and the cycles of the soil. These variations add richness and diversity to Arachnian spiritual life. They are generally tolerated and respected within the larger, all-encompassing web of their core beliefs. Upon their vibrant, verdant world, life took a unique and fascinating path. The Arachnians emerged, a species quite unlike any other we might observe. They began to stand upright, a truly crucial change in their evolution. This new, erect posture freed their many agile and delicate limbs. These limbs, once used only for movement, could now grasp and manipulate. Their specialized spinnerets produced remarkable, versatile silken threads. This silk was incredibly strong, yet wonderfully fine and adaptable. It would, in time, become the very foundation of their entire civilization. Their long and intricate journey as master weavers had truly begun. A new form of intelligence sparked, shimmering in the dense forests of their homeworld. The silk itself was a marvel, central to their early existence. It was used for much more than just simple webs to catch their prey. The Arachnians possessed an innate ability to produce this wondrous material. They learned to control its consistency, its thickness, its very texture. This was a monumental step, perhaps akin to early humans harnessing fire. They discovered that different types of silk served different vital purposes. Some strong silk was used for bindings, others for delicate, intricate snares. This inherent biological gift became the strong cornerstone of their technology. From these humble beginnings, a complex society would eventually grow. Their destiny was inextricably linked to these shimmering, proteinaceous strands. Communal web weaving became a defining feature of early Iranian life. They constructed large shared web structures, high in the towering flora. These were not merely traps, but the first true Iranian settlements. The social implications of this highly cooperative behavior were profound. These communal webs provided safety in numbers, a collective defense. Young Iranians learned from their elders, observing and then practicing. They mastered the intricate, ancient art of weaving these complex homes. The strength of the group lay in their collective, unified ability. They built and maintained these elaborate silken homes far above the forest floor. A society bound by silk and by shared endeavor began to take shape. The very first Iranian tools were simple yet remarkably effective. They learned to use their versatile silk with other natural materials. Stones and pieces of wood were combined with silk to create new implements. These early innovations had a significant impact on their survival. They also began to subtly shape their burgeoning societal structure. Sharp-edged tools were crafted by coating stone flakes with hardened silk. They fashioned useful containers from woven leaves reinforced with strong threads. This allowed for more efficient food processing and better defense against predators. This marked the true, tangible beginning of Iranian ingenuity and invention. A long path of discovery, woven from necessity, stretched out before them. The threads of early Iranian culture began to form intricate patterns. Rituals and social customs developed within the safety of communal webs. The importance of patterns became central to their understanding of the world. They observed the repeating patterns in nature, the cycles of the moon, the regular growth of plants, the movement of stars, all held meaning. These observations began to shape their unique and evolving worldview. They developed ritual dances that mimicked the very act of weaving. These were intricate, rhythmic movements performed upon the silken strands. Such gatherings strengthened their social bonds, creating deep connections. Cultural knowledge was transmitted across generations, a silent language of shared experience. Their tool use grew in sophistication, moving beyond basic survival needs. Iranians began to fashion tools for artistic expression and personal adornment. They discovered how to use different colored silks, perhaps dyed with plant extracts. Simple musical instruments were crafted from hollow reeds and carefully stretched silk. These instruments produced subtle vibrating melodies that resonated through their web structures. Beautiful adornments made from iridescent beetle wings and fine woven silk became common. These early expressions of creativity showed a burgeoning sense of aesthetics. A deep-seated desire to beautify their world and themselves had awakened. Artistry began to weave itself into the fabric of their daily lives. Their unique senses perceived beauty in ways we can only imagine. The dawn of spiritual awakening cast new light upon their existence. A profound awe of the natural world filled their developing consciousness. The many mysteries of existence prompted deep contemplation and wonder. Early deities or spirits became associated with the forest, the sky, and silk itself. Perhaps they revered a great weaver, a divine entity watching over them. This entity might be seen as responsible for the interconnectedness of all things. Ritual offerings, perhaps of prized insects or intricately woven patterns, were made. These offerings were intended to appease these powerful, unseen spirits. These early beliefs provided comfort and a framework for understanding their world. It was a spiritual safety net, woven from reverence and nascent understanding. Elders became the respected keepers of knowledge and ancient traditions. Oral histories were carefully passed down through complex vibrations on the web. The communal web itself became a crucial medium for information transfer. Elders would skillfully pluck specific strands in precise, meaningful sequences. In this way, they recounted the important stories of their ancestors. They taught the young Iranians about safe foraging and effective weaving techniques. The vital lore of their people was preserved through this vibrational language. This communication was rudimentary by later standards, but remarkably effective. It laid the essential groundwork for more complex systems yet to come. The communal web was not just a home, but a living, breathing library. A pivotal moment arrived with the discovery of a material they called silk metal. Iranians learned to ingeniously combine their incredibly strong silk with metallic dust. Sometimes fine particles of raw ores were used in this intricate process. This revolutionary new material was both surprisingly lightweight and incredibly durable. It utterly transformed their construction capabilities, opening new possibilities. They found that by meticulously weaving their toughest silk around these fine particles, a composite material of extraordinary qualities could be reliably created. This new substance, silk metal, possessed the flexibility of silk and the strength of metal. It was a profound breakthrough, a discovery that would redefine their civilization. The age of simple webs was drawing to a close, a new era dawning. The rise of urban weaving followed swiftly upon this material innovation. Larger, more permanent settlements were now constructed from gleaming silk metal. These structures allowed for far more complex and ambitious architectural designs. These were no longer just extended family webs, but true bustling cities. Towering structures rose towards the sky, intricate and yet immensely strong. They were interconnected by elaborate networks of silk metal cables and walkways. These cities were breathtaking marvels of Iranian engineering and artistry. Designed to withstand harsh weather, they accommodated a rapidly growing population. The Iranians became master architects, their cities testaments to their skill. Their silken metropolises shimmered in the sunlight, symbols of a new age. A formal system of communication, writing by vibration, began to evolve. It grew from the earlier, simpler methods of transmitting messages on the web. Specialized talking webs were constructed for this precise purpose. These webs could transmit complex messages over increasingly significant distances. This remarkable development allowed for detailed record-keeping, laws, and literature. Highly skilled scribes would meticulously pluck strands on specially constructed frames. They created complex patterns of vibration that could be read by others. This system was incredibly nuanced, capable of conveying subtle emotions and abstract ideas. History could now be recorded with greater accuracy than ever before. Knowledge could be disseminated more widely, accelerating their development. The societal impact of these remarkable advancements was truly transformative. A distinct specialization of labor began to emerge within their growing cities. Weavers, metallurgists, scribes, and builders appeared as distinct professions. An artisan class, revered for their skill and creativity, gained prominence. A more structured system of governance became necessary to manage these complex societies. The Bronze Silk Age saw a great flourishing of Iranian society and culture. Trade between the different woven cities began to expand and flourish. This commerce was facilitated by the new, efficient methods of communication. A more complex social hierarchy gradually developed within their civilization. Councils of elders or highly skilled artisans often guided community decisions. A new kind of conflict emerged, known in their histories as the Weave Wars. These were not typically lethal conflicts as we might understand them. They were not aimed at outright conquest or the annihilation of rivals. Instead, these disputes were primarily economic and strategic in their nature. The ultimate goal was to gain control over valuable resources or trade routes. Sometimes the prize was access to superior weaving techniques or materials. Competing city-states or powerful weaver guilds would engage in these unique disputes. The Iranians, by their inherent nature, were not overtly physically aggressive. Their conflicts reflected their deep connection to their craft of weaving. The economic importance of silk shaped this different kind of warfare. The tactics employed in the Weave Wars were as unique as their motivation. One common tactic was the subtle sabotaging of a rival's productive webs. Another involved the theft of valuable silk-producing insects or specialized larvae. Sometimes they engaged in remarkable pattern battles on shared web structures. This involved weaving incredibly complex, distracting or disruptive visual patterns. The aim was to overwhelm an opponent's senses or disrupt their communications. Industrial espionage was also common, a constant search for secret knowledge. Weavers would attempt to learn the secrets of rival silk metal alloys or techniques. Occasionally, rival groups would overweave an opponent's structure, a symbolic dominance. These tactics were disruptive rather than destructive, focused on economic advantage. The resolution of these intricate conflicts was often equally sophisticated. Disputes were frequently settled through complex and lengthy negotiations. Sometimes elaborate weaving contests were held, the winner gaining concessions. The establishment of new trade agreements often marked the end of a dispute. In many cases, a neutral third party of respected elder weavers would arbitrate. The primary emphasis was always on restoring balance and ensuring continued prosperity. The uninterrupted flow of resources and knowledge was paramount for all. The long-term survival of the Arachnian species depended on underlying cooperation. These wars, though disruptive, often spurred further innovation and creativity. Each side constantly sought a new edge, pushing the boundaries of their craft. The Silken Classical Age, a period of great cultural growth, emerged from this era. The Weave Wars, despite their competitive nature, paradoxically led to increased interaction. The spread of ideas and technologies across different regions was accelerated. Early forms of global communication networks began to take shape. These networks utilized vast, interconnected webs spanning great distances. Specialized messengers, highly skilled in traversing these silken highways, became vital. They swiftly carried information and trade proposals between distant settlements. This laid the crucial groundwork for a more unified, global Arachnian consciousness. The lessons learned from these commercial conflicts helped shape their diplomacy. Their understanding of interconnectedness was deepened by these unique struggles. Section 5. The Age of Fractal Harmony, a Silken Renaissance. The development of the global silk net marked a pinnacle of Arachnian achievement. This was an incredibly sophisticated planet-wide network of communication webs. It allowed for the near-instantaneous sharing of information across vast distances. Cultural exchange flourished as never before, enriching all Arachnian societies. This monumental achievement connected almost every Arachnian settlement on their world. It fostered a growing sense of global community and shared identity. News of important events, new scientific discoveries, and artistic creations could now traverse the entire planet in mere moments, carried by vibrations. These messages hummed through the intricate, shimmering silken strands of the network. A new era of unprecedented interconnectedness had well and truly arrived. A remarkable cultural renaissance was spurred by this profound interconnectedness. The arts, philosophy, and various branches of science flourished magnificently. Arachnians explored complex mathematical concepts through intricate weave patterns. They discovered fundamental truths about geometry and topology in their designs. Breathtakingly intricate sculptures crafted from silk and captured light were created. Music composed of complex layered vibrations reached new heights of sophistication. Philosophers keenly debated the fundamental nature of reality and existence. They pondered the meaning of the great weave, the interconnected fabric of being. The Arachnian place within this vast cosmic tapestry was a constant subject. This era was marked by profound intellectual and artistic vibrancy, a true golden age. Their cosmological studies reached new depths of understanding during this period. The Arachnians cleverly used the vast global silk net as a giant sensory array. With it, they could listen to the subtle whispers of the cosmos. They developed unique theories about the universe based on vibrations and energy patterns. Vast web observatories were constructed, incredibly sensitive structures. These observatories could detect the faintest cosmic tremors and gravitational waves. Their unique sensory abilities allowed them to perceive aspects of the universe that other species reliant on different senses might entirely miss. They theorized about dark matter and energy not as particles, but differently. They conceived them as different kinds of cosmic strands or vibrations in the universal fabric. The magnificent Codex Harmonia was meticulously compiled during this enlightened age. This was a vast repository of all Arachnian knowledge, wisdom, and art. It was encoded into a massive, incredibly complex fractal web structure. This codex represented their ultimate cultural and intellectual achievement. It contained their entire recorded history, their scientific understanding of the world. Their deepest philosophical treatises and their greatest artistic works were preserved within. The Codex Harmonia was designed to be a living, dynamic document. It was constantly being updated and expanded with new insights and creations. It represented the pinnacle of their enduring desire to understand and preserve the beautiful, intricate patterns of existence were captured within its silken embrace. Section 6. The Great Tangle and Industrial Revolution's Challenges. The dawn of the Industrial Weave Age brought with it immense change. New technologies emerged for the mass production of silk and silk-based products. This led to a period of unprecedented economic growth for the Arachnians. However, this rapid expansion also brought forth a host of new problems. Vast factories appeared, capable of spinning enormous quantities of silk metal. Other advanced silk-derived materials were also produced on a grand scale. Automated looms wove complex structures at speeds previously unimaginable. This mechanization promised a future of abundance and effortless progress. Yet these swift changes came with unforeseen and serious consequences. The very fabric of Iranian society and their environment began to strain. Significant technological shifts occurred, altering their relationship with their craft. The focus moved from handcrafted precision towards industrial scale and output. While efficiency increased dramatically, something precious was also lost. Some of the intricate artistry of traditional weaving began to fade. The primary emphasis shifted towards sheer quantity and the speed of production. New powerful energy sources were developed to drive the massive weaving machines. Some of these power sources, unfortunately, had negative environmental impacts. The individual personal touch of the master weaver was often replaced. The uniformity of mass production became the new dominant aesthetic. This created a palpable tension between cherished tradition and relentless progress. This period culminated in what became known as the entanglement crisis. It was often referred to more colloquially as the Great Tangle. Overproduction of silk goods led to waste and unsustainable practices. Pollution from new, poorly understood industrial processes began to accumulate. The once pristine global silk net started to suffer from degradation. This was due to unregulated expansion and increasingly tangled infrastructure. Discarded, non-biodegradable silk variants began to accumulate in vast quantities. The silk net became congested, its signals obscured by noise from countless transmissions. Some regions experienced catastrophic web fall as infrastructure collapsed under its own weight. The interconnectedness that had defined them became a dangerous source of chaos. Societal unrest grew and intense philosophical debates echoed through the tangled webs. Some Arachnians argued passionately for a return to simpler, more traditional ways. Others, equally convinced, pushed for more advanced technological solutions to the crisis. The Great Tangle exposed deep and troubling divisions within Arachnian society. Urgent debates raged about the ethics of unchecked industrial growth. The impact on their ancient spiritual connection to the natural weave of life was profound. New thinkers and influential activists emerged, calling for a radical re-evaluation. They questioned the very path their civilization had taken. The bright promise of endless production had led to a complex, dangerous predicament. Their society was caught in a true knot, a tangle of their own making. Section 7. Reforming the Strands, Finding Balance Anew. In response to the crisis, powerful Reformation movements began to rise. Groups of concerned Iranians advocated passionately for widespread, meaningful change. They sought to collaboratively untangle the complex mess of the industrial weave age. These movements were diverse, drawing members from many walks of life. Environmental activists worked alongside spiritual leaders and concerned scientists. They organized peaceful protests and published influential treatises on the troubled silk net. These messages vibrated across struggling sections of the global communication network. They proposed new societal models, designed for sustainability and harmony. Their primary unifying goal was to restore balance, a precious equilibrium. This balance was needed both within their society and with their natural environment. The key philosophies of the Reformation were insightful and forward-thinking. They placed a strong emphasis on sustainable weaving practices and materials. Mindful consumption, rather than endless accumulation, became a core tenet. The intrinsic value of the natural world was reasserted with great passion. Nature was to be seen not just as a resource, but as a sacred partner. They promoted the innovative idea of eco-efficiency in all production. This meant creating durable, beautiful products with minimal environmental impact. They drew profound inspiration from ancient Iranian weaving traditions. These traditions had always emphasized balance, harmony, and respect for materials. These philosophies resonated deeply with many Iranians, offering hope and direction. The long and difficult process of untangling the Great Tangle commenced. This involved far more than just physical repair of the damaged infrastructure. It required deep societal and far-reaching economic reforms as well. New, stringent regulations were carefully put in place for silk production. Rules governing the disposal of waste materials were strictly enforced. Significant investment poured into developing new biodegradable silk variants. Methods for efficiently recycling old, discarded web materials were pioneered. It required a massive collective effort from all segments of society. Communities worked together tirelessly to clear choked infrastructure. They painstakingly restored ecological balance in affected regions, a slow healing. This era of renewal culminated in the historic World Rebalancing Treaty. This was a landmark agreement forged among different Iranian factions and regions. It established clear, globally accepted principles for sustainable development. The responsible use of technology was enshrined as a guiding ideal. This treaty marked a significant turning point in Iranian history. It codified many of the Reformation's core ideals into global policy. Independent oversight bodies were established to monitor industrial practices. They were tasked with ensuring the continued health of the global silk net. The treaty was a testament to the Iranians' remarkable ability to learn. They learned from their past mistakes, weaving a more resilient, thoughtful future. Section 8. The Technorganic Awakening Merging Mind and Material. The dawn of the Technorganic Renaissance heralded a new and exciting chapter. This new era focused on the symbiotic integration of technology and biology. It was a direct, thoughtful response to the hard lessons learned from the Great Tangle. Iranians began to explore innovative ways to make their technology more like living systems. Their goal was to create systems that were adaptable and self-repairing. Technology was envisioned as harmonious with the delicate balance of nature. This involved the bioengineering of new types of silk with astonishing properties. These silks could respond to environmental stimuli or even repair themselves. They sought not just to control nature, but to co-create with it. This represented a profound and inspiring shift in their collective perspective. A cornerstone of this renaissance was the development of the mind-silk interface. This allowed for a direct neural connection to the global silk net. It also enabled interface with other complex woven technologies and structures. This breakthrough permitted unprecedented levels of communication and interaction. Iranians could now mentally interface with their tools, their homes, and the network. The vast network of information became an extension of their own minds. Thoughts could be translated directly into intricate woven patterns. Complex ideas could become vibrational messages shared almost instantaneously. This technology opened up entirely new frontiers in art, science, and personal expression. The very lines between mind, body, and machine began to beautifully blur. Profound societal changes resulted from this direct mental connection to the web. The nature of education was utterly transformed, becoming deeply immersive. Learning became instantaneous, knowledge shared directly from mind to mind. Artistic collaborations could now span the entire globe with effortless ease. Minds from distant regions could weave together intricate creations in shared virtual spaces. Governance itself became more transparent and participatory than ever before. Citizens were able to directly input their thoughts and preferences. These inputs flowed into decision-making processes, creating a more responsive system. However, this also raised new and complex ethical questions for their society. Debates about mental privacy and individual autonomy resonated deeply through the Silknet. From this interconnectedness, the World Web consciousness began to emerge. This was a form of collective consciousness born from billions of linked Iranian minds. It was not a monolithic hive mind, erasing individuality. Rather, it was a shared awareness, an emergent understanding and empathy. It fostered unprecedented levels of cooperation on a truly global scale. The Iranians began to experience a deeper, more profound sense of unity. This unity was not just with each other, but with the planetary web itself. This vast collective consciousness guided their civilization towards new heights. They attained greater wisdom and enhanced collaborative problem-solving abilities. It was a magnificent tapestry woven from countless individual thoughts and experiences. Section 9. The infinite weave, beyond form and towards the final pattern. The era of infinite weave slowly began, marking another profound transformation. Individual Iranians started to transcend their traditional physical forms. Their consciousness, now deeply integrated with the vast world web, evolved. It no longer required a biological anchor to exist and experience. They could exist as intricate patterns of pure energy and information. These patterns flowed within the immense planet-spanning data network. This was a gradual process, a personal choice made by individuals. They sought a new, less constrained mode of existence, a different way of being. Their physical bodies, no longer essential for consciousness, were respectfully returned. They were returned to the natural cycle, their essence woven into the greater whole. Physical dissolution became a common choice for many in this advanced era. Many Iranians chose to unweave their biological bodies entirely. They merged fully with the boundless consciousness of the world web. Some embarked on extraordinary spiral migrations, journeys of pure thought. These were voyages of consciousness through the cosmic web, the universal fabric. They explored the vast universe as sentient patterns of pure information. These migrations were incredible voyages of discovery and understanding. They sought to comprehend the fundamental patterns that underpin all reality. During these journeys, they encountered other forms of consciousness, other patterns. Their understanding of the cosmos expanded in ways previously unimaginable. The great patternful debate arose, a profound philosophical discourse. It concerned the ultimate destiny of the collective Iranian consciousness. Was there a final, perfect pattern towards which they were all evolving? Or was existence an endless, beautiful process of weaving and reweaving? Some believed in a pattern fall, a future convergence into a state of ultimate unity. This state would be one of perfect comprehension and oneness. Others argued for an eternal, dynamic dance of creation and dissolution. They envisioned an infinite tapestry of ever-changing possibilities and forms. This debate became central to their post-physical existence, a constant exploration. It was an ongoing quest for ultimate meaning in a transformed reality. Within this era, certain fringe groups, known as the unweaving cults, emerged. Some of these groups sought to actively accelerate the dissolution of all patterns. They believed this would hasten the arrival of the prophesied final pattern. Others, however, feared this ultimate state as a form of oblivion. They tried desperately to preserve individual patterns, individual consciousnesses. The unweaving cults actively worked to unravel all complexity and distinction. They believed this simplification was the path to the ultimate state of being. Conversely, preservationists diligently worked to archive individual consciousnesses. They feared the irretrievable loss of unique perspectives in a total merger. The prophecy of the final pattern remained an enigmatic and compelling vision. It shaped the hopes and fears of their far future, a destiny still unspun.